Seattle Seahawks 29, Washington Commanders 26. This was an exciting walk-off field goal, wasn't it?
Exciting walk-off.
I mean, the moments leading up to it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Exciting.
It's the moments leading up to it that's the exciting part. It's not the walk-off field goal.
This was a field goal fest for a while. 12-9, Washington was up into the third quarter. Then you have Geno Smith gets the ball into the flat to Kenneth Walker, who takes it 64 yards for a touchdown. Washington comes back. They eventually tie it up at 19. Geno Smith finds Tyler Lockett for a touchdown. They go up 7. This has been, how many Washington games this year? Are they just going back and forth, back and forth? Like, they come back, man. That's Sam Howell hits De'Ami Brown for a 35-yarder with about a minute left in the game. What a beautiful touch pass over the linebackers. Hits Brown in stride. He takes it in for a touchdown. They tie it up at 26. But Geno Smith and Seattle come back and do the same thing. DK Metcalf takes over on that final drive. They get into field goal range. And, man, just a beautiful offense in 2-minute situations by both Washington and Seattle. But Seattle pulls it off, 29-26. They move to 6-3 and still sitting atop the NFC West along with the Niners.
Yeah, the quarterbacks traded, game-winning drives. Only obviously the end one is the only one that counts. Like Sam Howell had a performance where he got it done. He drove down. He did his part. He drove down, scored, put them ahead, and then Seattle answered. And somehow, I'm not 100% sure what Washington's defense was doing on that final drive, but it's like just the entire drive was like throws to DK Metcalf, and then the last big play that got them there was just like a simple dig route into zone coverage. It's like, what? This is just a gap in the defense. Why would we not attempt to cover this a little bit more than that?
Yeah.
Like was, that spot drop stuff we talked about before, that's basically what they ran on that play.
Yeah, it was rough. I mean, so sometimes we talk about how the late game field goal drive is not easy, but it's like more expected than it's ever been. Even with offense down these years, that was kind of the example. I mean, Seattle had about a minute to get into field goal range. You're only talking a couple big plays to get into field goal range, and they did that. Emmanuel Forbes gets booted out of the game due to a head-to-head hit early on, so we were robbed of Emmanuel Forbes at 165 pounds going up against DK Metcalf in this game.
Yeah, I don't know if that would have happened anyway, but
maybe
it ceased to become an option when she was turfed out of the game, which seemed a bit harsh, to be honest.
Yeah, honestly, I thought
it was clearly a penalty, but
I thought they were reviewing if it wasn't a penalty.
No, it was definitely a penalty.
It was helmet to helmet, but I don't know. Those things are close.
It felt like, and I'm not saying I'm not saying he flopped or anything, but it felt like the reaction of Tyler Lockett was what got that.
That's what it always is. That's the problem.
But I don't even think it was an exaggerated reaction. Like I don't think he overdid the thing to sort of sell it and get him ejected.
Agreed.
And what I'm saying is there's just the way that he went to the ground, I think increased the punishment for that.
When plays look bad, they're more likely to get flagged. That's a problem.
But I think it was like the flag part is fine.
It is. I'm just saying generally.
Yeah, that
there was a play
escalated it to an ejection, which I think is wrong.
There was a play last night, I think in maybe Jets Raiders, where there was like the cleanest hit by a safety to a receiver who was kind of unprotected. Right, hit him square in the back over the middle of the field. I'm like, you could say defenseless, and if you hit him harder, it's more likely to get a penalty. If you hit him too hard, or if the guy just has a bad reaction, gets hurt, whatever, you're more likely to get a penalty. That's a problem because you get away from letter of the law and you get into look bad, call it a penalty. Anyway, that was my quick stuff.
That play, by the way, it's actually the defense itself wasn't as bad as I thought. It's literally just the two people playing Metcalf do a terrible job. Everyone else actually does a pretty good job of locking their guy down. And St-Juste just lets him go inside, and the safety doesn't drive on it. It's an easy pitch and catch.
Geno Smith had, I thought he had a good game where he had been turning the ball over for a while, but we talked about Howell throwing the ball over the backers, and Geno Smith had a couple of those throws. What was the go-ahead touchdown to Tyler Lockett? They roll him out. He puts it down and away from coverage. That was a beautiful throw. Geno Smith had a really good, clean game, and he's had some of the late game magic over these last few weeks as well. So Seattle, hanging tough here, and Sam Howell remains very intriguing on the other side for Washington, because I think he did his part as well, and he continues to not get sacked too much. So
that's
improvements being made here.
So he does. He continues to do his part. He continues this trend of being sacked slightly less than before. Like, he's no longer, he might actually still be on pace for the worst ever, but he's no longer getting sacked at that rate. This was a game where he was under pressure a lot. The Washington offensive line did not do a good job in this game. Like, we've talked before about the line actually over the season is not catastrophic, but it looks terrible because of Sam Howell. This was a game where the line actually got its ass kicked by and large. Like, multiple players on that line had bad games and were giving up a lot of pressure. And Sam Howell was under pressure quite a lot and, quote-unquote, only got sacked 3 times. I mean, this was a game where if this happened in week 2, he would have been sacked like 7 or 8 times. And we would be like, this can't function like this. He didn't. He only got sacked 3 times. Now, that's still not great, but it is a big step in the right direction. And
well, when you drop back almost 50 times again.
Right. And that is his single biggest flaw. So there is now multiple weeks worth of evidence that his single biggest flaw has moved in the right direction, which is a huge thing for like whether he can be like an actual, real, legitimately good quarterback going forward, because a lot of other stuff is there. There are big-time throws in this game. Okay, he had one bad turnover-type play where he fired it at a safety right down the middle. But that's his biggest flaw, the sack thing. And he didn't, like, this wasn't bad, and the opportunity was there for it to be bad.
Even the first touchdown, I mean, I don't know if it was the O-line that blew it or if he blew the protection necessarily, but he just avoids Jamal Adams, doesn't get sacked, and, flips it out to Brian Robinson for a 51-yard touchdown. So, yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there from Sam Howell, again, even in the losing effort. One other thing from a Seattle perspective, getting Jackson Smith and Jigba into the mix here these last few weeks, 4 catches, 53 yards. Initially, at the beginning of the season, that was the idea, right? If DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett stay healthy, Smith and Jigba becomes the 3, and they're full go now. Then you have Ken Walker and then Zach Charbonnet coming out of the backfield. And one of the funniest plays of this game was Charbonnet on that final drive when they're trying to conserve time, under a minute, and he just runs right through a dude, imposing his will. And he gets up and he's like, "Oh, my bad. I should have ran out of bounds." But it was kind of funny. But the thing I say all the time about offenses, where I don't know if it's really harder on defenses, but it feels like it, when you have a battering ram running back, a running back like a Ken Walker, who, like, you never know what gap he's going to hit, but he's got some big playability and he's tough to tackle. A monster in DK Metcalf, an elite route runner and catch point guy like Tyler Lockett, a nice slot route runner like Smith and Jigba. Like, they've got all these different types of playmakers that I think is going to make it challenging on defense while they're all healthy. So I feel like we saw that, especially in the second half here from Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, the trio of wide receivers, that duo of running backs, I mean, they have a lot to work with now. It's not even a thunder and lightning combination, just 2 very good running backs, both making plays.
As I said, Seattle 6-3 now. Commanders fall to 4-6.